Thus, Nike's sneaker trailer featuring Caitlyn Clark was ultimately launched. At last, they did. Nike has finally taken a logical step after months of watching them mess up their golden goose. Caitlyn Clark just received the ad she was due, and the people who dislike it are going crazy over it, boy. The keyboards are smoking, the tears are streaming, and the saltiness is getting to the point that the Dead Sea would be envious. Not heard yet? I'm rather certain that you have. A new Caitlyn Clark commercial has been launched by Nike. Additionally, they made it their mission to support and care for CC. We now know that since the corporation signed, Caitlyn Clark supporters have undoubtedly been at odds with it. A lot of people believe that Caitlyn Clark is neglected. Man, I'm not sure. I love Nike, despite the fact that many individuals will disagree. I believe Nike was strategic with their... People may be angry about it or feel any other way about it, but I can tell you that I think they were being strategic. When Nike released the Coob ad for Caitlyn's new P sneakers, it was as if the brand had suddenly remembered why they had signed the most alluring basketball player, the woman who brought women's basketball into the mainstream on her own, who packs arenas like she's giving away free money, has finally landed an advertisement that reflects her enthusiasm. The detractors are also furious. Caitlyn Clark's Indiana Fever player-owned Kobe is officially being dropped by Caitlyn Clark and Nike in a matter of weeks. Until a few days ago, when Nike's official photos of the shoes were leaked, and it was announced that everyone would now have the opportunity to wear them, this sneaker was initially seen being worn by Caitlyn and was believed to be a colorway created specifically for her. Let's discuss what Nike recently unveiled. This is a statement rather than merely a commercial. Nike is letting the world know when Caitlyn puts on those Kobe 5S, sits in that chair, and her eyes change into those snake-like slits, embodying Kobe's Mamba mindset, precisely who is in charge of this league. The entire atmosphere, the cinematography, and the visual effects, it's high end. Instead of the shit that has been thrown at women's basketball for decades, this is the kind of treatment that is saved for superstars. We got Caitlyn something. Mamba Caitlyn was ours. Mamba Caitlyn was ours. Caitlyn, the Mamba, where are you? There we have it. The Mamba logo arrived. Caitlyn is now on Demon Time. However, it's encouraging to see that they've finally declared it to be Caitlyn's as the Caitlyn logo, or sorry. But now the typical suspects are emerging from their caves to voice their displeasure. Why is everyone focusing on her? How about the other players? This is too much for a player in their second year. Every moment Caitlyn first set foot on a professional court, the same weary chorus has been complaining. They refuse to acknowledge what is directly in front of them. Nike finally had the guts to market Caitlyn Clark, the face of women's basketball, in this way. People now felt the same way about Caitlyn Clark receiving these PE shoes. You know, many people believe that she ought to have her own signature shoe, and she does. She really ought to. However, nobody has, and I don't believe any athlete has a Kobe P. Dude, you guys, are you aware of Kobe's name in the basketball world? Just saying. Even Kobe's family didn't like it, so I'm very certain he won't gift his iconic shoe to just anybody. You know why? What am I saying? The best part is that other NBA players don't even have it. Within 5 minutes, those sneakers were sold out. 5 minutes, like a Travis Scott drop. People were swarming the Nike SNK's app. The retail price of $190, 0 cents, was gone before you could reload the page. They were already selling on eBay for $375, 0 cents, zero within 2 hours. Additionally, StockX listed them at an average of $365, 0 cents by the end of the day, with some pairings reaching $800, 0 cents. The Caitlyn Clark effect is that in action rather than phony rhetoric. There is some fire in these things. Where there is smoke, there is fire, I assure you. And these things are striking with such force. Who also got a bot? Who is a shoe plug? Because I require 2 pairs. These items are hidden right here, so I need one for my feet and one for the sneaker wall. Furthermore, I don't want to spend $600, 0 cents on it. Subscribe if you're enjoying it. In the meantime, the detractors are furious because Nike finally gave in to what the numbers had been begging for more than a year. The WNBA saw its best viewership in 24 years thanks to this athlete. Each game in the league drew an average of 657,000 viewers. Additionally, Caitlyn's Indiana Fever appeared in 19 of the 22 games that attracted over 1 million viewers. She snapped the needle off and sent it into orbit rather than merely moving it. However, let's confront the issue that has everyone so confused. For several months, while promoting A'ja Wilson's trademark shoe, Nike came under fire for playing Caitlyn slowly. Finally, it's here. Nike's Caitlyn Clark sneakers are officially available. I think the sneakers are a year late since she was signed to them last year. Nevertheless, I'm thrilled that these sneakers will finally be available. However, the fact that this is a joint venture with Kobe irritates me a little. Now, Kobe, may you rest in peace, the legendary Kobe, fantastic basketball player. However, I believe that Caitlyn Clark is a well-known celebrity who is forging her own legacy. Therefore, it shouldn't be a cooperation with any other player, dead or alive, at least not for her debut sneaker. I believe that Caitlyn ought to have had a unique design created specifically for her first sneaker. No cooperation. The conversation over A'ja Caitlyn quickly became poisonous as people tried to make it about everything other than business, which was its true focus. Nike was being derided by former Nike employees, criticized the company for having the biggest influencer in American sports since Michael Jordan Rogers, a 15-year Nike veteran, and somehow persuaded themselves that they needed to slow down their growth. When A'ja Wilson disclosed that she had been aware of her Nike contract for 2 years but pretended to be overlooked when Caitlyn's contract was exposed, the amount of animosity reached its highest point as she was sitting on a deal for a trademark pair of shoes that she had been concealing when she sent out the tweets, the subtweeting, and the passive-aggressive remarks. What phony drama. However, it is what occurs when you have it's too much for a player who goes beyond the sport and specific online communities. Since 2021, your stock price has dropped by over 60%. The stock options of your executives and others making these decisions are worthless. You've managed to convince yourself that you need to slow play this, even though you have the biggest needle mover in American sports since Michael Jordan. I'll show you the search traffic for 4 female basketball players on Google Trends. Angel Reese is the only one who can compete with Caitlyn Clark, and you don't have to. Over at Reebok, she is. You have been doing fantastic work to try to improve the WNBA and many of its athletes, so I'm not sure how you could have been so invested in the league for so long. However, it appears that you have persuaded yourself that this talk must be either or, and in men's sports, we never have either or discussions. About 10 of your athletes are signatures. Not all of them are worthy of a signature sneaker. Nike has now changed its direction and is moving forward with greatest strength. It's more than simply marketing in the Kobe commercial. Nike is at last realizing what they have. They can't disregard Caitlyn like they would any other WNBA player. She pulls everyone together and is a cultural phenomenon. Men who had never watched women's basketball, families, children, and casual fans who turned into ardent supporters. She is enlarging the sport's entire universe. She is linked to Kobe's legacy in the commercial in a genuine manner that doesn't feel forced. Since college, she has been wearing Kobe shoes, which she refers to as her kids' miracle shoes. It wasn't cosplay when she embodied that Mamba mindset in the commercial. It was the acknowledgement of a shared spirit. This relationship would have delighted the late, great Kobe, someone who plays the game with the same killer instinct, the same obsessive dedication, and the same capacity to improve everyone around them. The eagerly anticipated, long-awaited play-on Lewis for King Clark, not her go-to show. Recall that they lack the creativity to come up with it, but it should be available to players exclusively in a few months. They are beginning to push it. The rollout is this. Before the holidays, an apparel line will be available. Let's see how much Nike invests in King Clark. and how supportive her followers are. Here's what the naysayers are truly upset about, though. Caitlyn is now being treated by Nike like the tyrant she has always been, the main event, not the co-headliner or the also featured artist. According to reports, her branded shoe will surpass all previous records in women's sports marketing when it launches later this year. Decades of sports marketing standards are fundamentally challenged by Nike's presentation of Clark as the main attraction. Women's sports have always been viewed as supplementary content, receiving just zero. Women's sports receive 4% of all sports sponsorships. Nike is proving that female athletes can demand the same high-end marketing attention typically accorded for male superstars by putting Clark at the forefront of significant campaigns, including as their first Super Bowl commercial in almost 30 years. Her 8-year, $28 million 0 cents contract seemed to be the best deal of the century. This is now the highest-paying endorsement contract ever signed by a female basketball player. This monetary investment lets the general public know that women's basketball has achieved a level of commercial viability that warrants significant corporate investment, prompting other businesses to reevaluate how much of their own marketing budgets they devote to female athletes. At last, you included her in a Super Bowl campaign alongside 9 other females, and all due respect to them, but she's making a greater impact than any of them. One of the greatest justifications I can think of is that you are wringing your hands and frightened to engage in this politically divided discourse that has been appropriated by the media and racially biased pundits. Your tagline in that was, "You can't win," so taunting and engaging in a variety of absurd activities related to women's basketball. You're not going to win. Win then. And you were simply sitting about with the unicorn, the one everyone wants to hear from, the one who has been selected. Wilson Basketball, Gatorade, State Farm, and Gamebridge have all managed to get their point of view across to Caitlyn Clark. For heaven's sake, figure anything out. The market for resale is honest. When the value of your player-only Kobe's hits $8,000, selling $756 0 cents pairs on StockX for an average of $365 0 cents, which is almost twice the original price. You're not dealing with the usual demand from athletes. Superstar territory is here. This is a cultural impact on par with Jordan. Only 13,000 pairs were produced for the first drop, which only serves to highlight the high level of demand for anything Caitlyn Clark touches. Before Caitlyn, the WNBA had not had a 7-figure television audience in 16 years. They are now commonplace. Her average score in games is 1. 39 million people watched, while non-Clark games drew 414,000. WNBA games with Clark draw an average of 15,591 spectators, a 105% increase over the 7,645 that attend when she is not playing. When Clark visits opposition teams, attendance at road games increases by 87%, with her games accounting for 33 of those games. 5% of all WNBA games attended, even though they only made up a small portion of the total number of games played. At first, I was concerned that things might not go well, but hold on until I show you the stock statistics. Furthermore, it appears that her jersey is much sought after because she openly supported Angel Reese. At first, I didn't believe this colorway would be that popular, but pre-sale is proving me wrong. These are only $190 0 cents at retail, but they are presently pre-sold for nearly $300 0 cents. There are just 13,000 pairs available on Nike US as of their June 30th drop date. In contrast, there were only 30,000 pairs of the Kobe 5 eggplant available on Nike. This story is made even more interesting by the viewership data. The NCAA 2024, 18 points were drawn in the women's basketball championship game, 9 million viewers, more than 4 million, more than the men's final, and the first time women's basketball received more viewers than the men's championship. With ESPN's Game 2 drawing 2, Clark's postseason performances have broken previous marks. The most watched WNBA game, ever to be broadcast exclusively on cable, had 5 million people. She's doing more than just boosting her own stats. Everyone's tide is rising because of her. Games that participate in her competitions receive higher ratings. Merchandise sales for other players have increased. The Caitlyn Clark impact is advantageous to the league as a whole. NBA TV has given her the most views to date, 624,000. We're talking 3 times as much, people. What will it take for the viewership of these other games to begin to increase? We are talking about 2 times the amount on a random channel called NBA TV. Finally, Nike is making money off of what is obvious to everyone. Markets are moved by this player. She is the conversation starter. She crashes websites and fills seats. The true controversy is not that they finally gave her a good commercial, but rather that it took them this long. Nike is profiting from the most marketable athlete in women's sports while the haters persist in their pitiful attempt to lessen her influence. That girl is Caitlyn Clark. That girl has been her. That girl will always be her. The one who hits sneaker websites, sells out arenas, and breaks viewership records.